Good morning, respected principal ma'am, judges, teachers, and all my dear friends. I am Ronak Maiti from class 6A. Today, I am going to recite a poem named Where the Mind is Without Fear, written by Rabindranath Tagore. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where the words come out from the depth of the truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever widening thought and action into that heaven of freedom. My Father, let my country awake, let my country awake. Thank you.
Good morning to one and all present here. I am Swarna Shibera of Standard 6B, and today I am going to recite to you the poem Invictus, written by William Ernest Henley. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade. And yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Thank you.
Good morning to one and all present here. My name is Vaibhav Raj from class 6B. Today I am going to present a beautiful poem of Equipment, written by Edgar Albert Guest. Figure it out for yourself, my lad. You have all the greatest of the men have had. To arms, to hands, to legs, to eyes, and a brain to use, if you would be wise. With this equipment they all began. So start from the top and say I can. Look them over, the wise and great. They take their food from a common plate, and similar knife and fork they use, with similar laces to tie their shoes. The world considers them brave and smart, but you have all they had when they made their start. You can triumph and come to skill. You can be great if only you will. You are well equipped for what fight you choose. You have legs and arms and a brain to use. The man who has risen, great deeds to do, begin his life with no more than you. You are the handicap you must face. You are the one who must choose your place. You must say where you want to go, how much you will study the truth to know. God has equipped you for life. God has equipped you for life, but He lets you decide what you want to be. Courage must come from soul within. Man must furnish the will to win. So figure it out for yourself, my lad. You have all the greatest of the men have had. Thank you.
Good morning, one and all present here. Myself, Pari Singh, the student of class 6C. Today I am going to recite a poem named The Will to Win by Burton Braley. If you want a thing bad enough to go out and fight for it, work day and night for it. Give up your time and your peace and your sleep for it. If only desire of it makes you quite mad enough never to tire of it, next to ruin all other things to a dream and cheap for it. If life seems all empty and useless without it, and all you scheme and you dream is about it, if you will go simply after that thing that you want with all your capacity, strength, faith, hope, and confidence, the day will definitely come when you cover the distance of what you are and what you want to be. Thank you.
Good morning to one and all present here. Today, Ayayo Singh Gautam from class 6C is going to recite a motivational poem between you all, and the name of my poem is Overcoming by Roland Howell Stoney Rumby. Life is a dream, in a dream, and a base of all awakes. Closing my eyes to sleep, waking up at my wake. Nothing lasts forever, so I stack my memories on a tray, so nothing to fuel my rage. I let my passions start the fire, making sure my mental is made up of metal and might. My goals are more precious than the star that shine bright, striving to do much more, making the most of each passing hour, never to grow so at the life's unending door. Thank you.
All my dear friends, my name is Manya Shiran. I'm from class 6A and today I'm going to recite a motivational poem named Don't Quit. And the poet is Edgar Albert Gwist. When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the roads you are traveling seems all uphill, when the funds are low and debts are high, when you want to smile, but you have to sigh, when care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't you quit. Life is a cure with twists and turns, as every one of us sometimes learn. And many a failure turns about when he might have won if he didn't suck it out. So don't give up, although the pace seems slow. You might succeed with another blow. Often the struggler has given up when he might captures the victor's cup. And he learned too late when the night slipped down how close he was to the golden crown. Success is a failure turned inside out, the silver tint of clouds or doubts, and you may never can tell how close you are. It may be near when it seems afar. So stick to the fight when you are the hardest hit. It is when things seems worse than you mustn't quit. Thank you.
My name is Shaurya Bihan from Standard 7A. Today I am going to recite a poem, and the title of my poem is The Three Little Pigs, written by James Hadwell Phillips. And it goes like this. The animal I really dig above all other is the pig. Pigs are noble, pigs are courteous, pigs are clever. However, now and then, to break this rule, one meets a pig who is a fool. What, for example, would you say is strolling through the woods one day? Right there in front you saw a pig who built his house of straw. The wolf who he licked his lips and said, "The pig has had his chips." Little pig, let me come in. No, 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 by the hairs of my chinny chin chin. Then I will huff and puff and blow your house away in. The little pig began to pray, but the wolfie blew his house away. He shouted, "Buck and broke ham, what a lucky wolf I am." He thought to eat the pig quite fast, and he thought to eat the pig quite fast, and he kept his tail till last. Surprise, surprise! Soon he noted a new house for the little pig, and this one made up of twigs. Little pig, let me come in. No, 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 by the hairs of my chinny chin chin. Then I will huff and.
Good morning to one and all present here. I am Rishika Roshan of Standard 7B. Today I am here to recite a poem,
and the title of my poem is Be Glad Your Nose is on Your Face by Jack Prelutsky. Be glad your nose is on your face and not pasted on some other place. And if it were where it is not, you might dislike your nose a lot. Imagine if your precious nose were sandwiched in between your toes. That would really not be a good treat, for you would be forced to smell your feet. Your nose would be a source of dread. Were it located atop your head, it would soon drive you to despair, forever tickled by your hair. Your nose, although so thick and thin, is squarely located between your eyes and chin, not pasted on some other place. Be glad your nose is on your face. Thank you.
Good morning to everyone present here. My name is Ayush Dwivedi and today I am going to present a poem named Sick. I cannot go to school today, said little Peggy Ann McKay. I have the measles and the mumps, a gash, a rash and purple bumps. My throat is wet, my mouth is dry. I am going blind in my right eye. My tonsils are as big as rocks. I have counted 16 chicken pox and there is more, that's 17. And don't you think my face look green? My leg is cut, my eyes are blue. It might be a stomachic flu. I cough and gasp and sneeze and choke. I'm sure that my left leg is broke. My back is wrenched, my ankle sprained, my appendix pain each time it rains. My brain is shrunk, I cannot hear. There is a hole inside my ear. I have a hangnail and my heart is what? What's that? What's that you say? You say today is Saturday. Goodbye, I'm going out to play. Thank you.
Good morning to one and all present here. I, Navla Kumari from class 7C, am going to recite a poem whose name is I Raised My Hand in Class, written by Ken Nesbitt. So my poem goes like this. I raised my hand in class this morning, sitting in the back. The teacher didn't see, I think. Instead she called on Jack. I stretched my hands up higher, but still she called on Zach and Zoe. I started bouncing up and down, but still she called on Joe. I swept my hands, but even so, she didn't call on me. She called on Brian, Brooklyn, Billy, Ben, and Bree. She called on Taylor, Tristan, Thomas, Trinity, and Ty. Then finally she called my name. I breathed a heavy sigh. She asked me for the answer. I frowned and clenched my knees. Then said, I have no idea, but could I use the bathroom, please? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Respected CEO ma'am, principal ma'am, director sir, administrative sir, and all my dear friends. Today, I, Dhanraj Prince of class 7C, am going to recite a poem named Homework Stew by Ken Nesbitt, and its theme is laughter. So this goes like this. I cooked my math book in a broth and stirred it to a steaming froth. I threw in papers, pencils too, to make a pot of homework stew. I turned the flame up nice and hot and tossed my binder in the pot. I sprinkled in my book report with colored markers by the quote. Despite its putrid, noxious gas, I proudly took my stew to class, and though the smell was so grotesque, I set it on my teacher's desk. My teacher said, "You're quite a chef, but you're still going to get an F." I did not ask for homework stew. I said, "Tomorrow, homework stew." Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Naomi Adel Prasad from Standard 8A, and today I am here to try and transport you back to the 2019 UN Climate Action Summit, where Greta Thunberg, a 16-year-old at the time, presented her most famous speech. How dare you? This isn't right. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I am one of the lucky ones. People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are at the start of a mass extinction. And all you can talk about is the money and the fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you? For more than 30 years, the science has been crystal clear. How dare you continue to look away and come here saying that you are doing enough when the policies and the politics needed are nowhere in sight? You say you hear us. You say you understand the situation and the urgency. But no matter how sad or angry I am, I do not want to believe that. Because if, just if you understood the situation and kept failing to act upon this matter so many times, then you would be evil, and I refuse to believe that. The popular idea of cutting our emissions in half in the next 10 years only gives us a 50% chance of staying under the 1.5 degrees Celsius line and setting off irreversible changes beyond human control. 50% may be acceptable to you, but those numbers, they do not include additional warming due to toxic air pollution. How dare you continue to pretend that this can all be solved with just some business as usual and some technical solutions? You are failing us. You are failing your own children. But the young people are starting to understand your betrayal. We will not let you get away with this. I will not let you get away with this. Right here, right now, is where we draw the line. The world is waking up, and change is coming, whether you like it or not. Thank you.
My name is Jan Pradeep Samuel and I am from class 8A. Today I am here to deliver a speech given by Barack Obama in America when they are starting a new school year. The speech goes like this. I'm here today to talk to you about your education and what expected of all of you in this new school year. We can have the most educated teachers, the best schools in the world, the most supportive parents, but none of it will matter unless you pay attention to those teachers and put in the hard work it takes to succeed. Maybe you're a good writer, even good enough to come with the next book or the article in a newspaper, but you might not know it until you write that English paper that was given in your English class. You might be an innovator or inventor, even good enough to come up with the next iPhone or the new vaccine, but you might not know it until you do that science project that was given in your class. Education is a very big thing, and you should take the responsibility for yourself for that. And whatever career you want to pursue, education is necessary. I guarantee that. Want to be a doctor, lawyer, mayor, anything, you want education for that. And this isn't just important for your own life and your own self. What you decide of education today will help us face the greatest challenge that's going to come in the future. We need you to develop your intellect, your skills, your passion, so you can help us old folks in America solve the greatest problems that is going to come in the future. Where you're right now doesn't determine where you'll end up. Because here in America, no one writes destiny for you. You write your own destiny. Great people aren't any different from you. They face the challenges in their life just like you do, even in some cases more worse. But the thing is, they refuse to give up. They take the responsibility for themselves, for their education, for their lives, and then they succeed. The truth is, being successful is hard. That's okay. That's completely fine. So the most successful peoples in the world who have the most failures. Michael Jordan, a well-known NBA player, once said that I failed over and over again, and that's why I succeed. Great people understood. Great people understood. You can't let your failures define you. You have to let your failures teach you. And I expect all of you to do the same. Maybe you're not good at education. You have to work in your studies. So even when you get a bad grade, it doesn't mean you're stupid. It means you have to work more harder and earn good grades. So, even when you're discouraged, others have given up on you, don't give up on yourself. Because when you give up on yourself, you give up on the whole country. So I want to ask you today, what contributions will you make? What changes will you bring to the society? I expect all of you to have the answers to these questions. I expect all of you to put your best efforts in everything that you do. Most of all, make us all proud. Make your family proud. Make your country proud. Thank you. God bless America.
Good morning to one and all present here. I'm Aradhya Atulya from class 8B, and today I'm going to deliver a speech given by J.K. Rowling on Harvard commencement in 2008. And it goes like this. The moment you're old enough to take the wheel, responsibilities lies with you. And I was the biggest failure I knew by all the usual standards by the time I was 21. The fears that my parents had for me and I had for myself both come to pass. Now, why do I talk about the benefits of failure? Simply because failure has meant us stripping away of the inessentials of life. You stop pretending to yourself that you are anything other than what you are and began to direct all your energy into finishing the only work that mattered to you. Had I really succeeded at anything else, I might never have found the determination to succeed in the only arena I believed I truly belonged to. You might never fail on the scale I did, but some failure in life is inevitable. It is impossible to live without failing at something unless you live so cautious that you might as well have not lived at all, in which case you fail by default. So, given a time turner, I would tell my past self that personal happiness lies in knowing that life is not a checklist of acquisitions or achievement. Your qualification, your CV are not your life. Though many people older may confuse you, life is difficult and beyond anyone's total control. And the humility to know that will enable you to survive its vicissitudes. As is a life, so is tale. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters.
Good morning, friends and my dear teachers. I am Anirban Pathak of class 8B. Today, I am going to deliver a speech of India's one of the greatest freedom fighters, Subhash Chandra Bose. He delivered this speech in 1944 in Burma. Here it goes. Friends, 12 months ago, a new program of total mobilization or maximum sacrifice was placed before Indians. In day, I shall give you the account of the achievements during our past year and shall place before you the demands we have for the opportunity we have for winning freedom. The British are now engaged in a worldwide struggle. In the course of the struggle, they have faced defeat after defeat in many fronts. That is why we have sworn to fully utilize this opportunity for liberating our motherland from the British yoke. I am very hopeful and optimistic about the outcome of our struggle because I do not merely rely on the efforts of 3 million Indians. Unfortunately, in the defeat in the Great War of 1857, our countrymen are disarmed, whereas the enemy are armed to teeth. Without arms and modern army, it is impossible to win freedom in this modern age. According to the program of total mobilization or maximum sacrifice, I demanded of you men, money, and materials. Regarding men, I am glad to tell you that we have gathered sufficient recruits from every corner of East Asia. With the regard of money, I demanded of you 30 million, but in the meantime, I have got more through the arrangement that we have done. And I promise you that a steady flow of money will be maintained in the future. Secondly, I demand of you men and women of all categories for the reconstruction and administration of the liberated areas. Last but most important is the problem of sending recruitment men and supplies to the fighting fronts. If we do not do so, I think we will not get success in the fronts. Friends and comrades, in this war of liberation, I demand of you one thing above all. I demand of you blood. Blood is the only thing that can avenge the blood that enemy have spilled. Blood is the only thing that can pay the price of freedom. Give me blood and I promise freedom. Thank you.
A very warm greetings to one and all present over here. Today, I, Shambhavi Singh of Class 8C, is standing before you to deliver a speech given by a wonderful and altruistic woman, Mother Teresa. So let's begin with the message of love. The poor are great people. They don't need our sympathy or our pity. They need our love and compassion. During a terrible time when millions of refugees fled to India, we asked for help, and many volunteers came and spent months with us, just loving, caring, giving tender love and care to our people. On their departure, they said they had received much more than they had given. The poor are great people. In Calcutta, some times ago, at night, we went to the street and we picked 5 or 4 people from the street and took them to our home for dying. And one of them was in a very bad condition, and I wanted to take care of her myself. And I did all that my love could do for her. When I put her into bed, she took hold my hand, and there was such a wonderful smile on her face. She just said one word, "Thank you," and she died. She had given me much more than I gave her. She gave me her grateful heart, and I thought, what would I have done in her place? My answer was, I would have tried to gain some attention. I would have said, I'm hungry, I'm cold, or I'm dying. But she was so great. She was so beautiful in her giving. The poor are great people. People are often unreasonable and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you're kind, people may accuse you of ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you're honest, people may cheat you. Be honest anyway. If you're happy, people may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today may be forgotten tomorrow. Do good anyway. Give the world your best you could, and it may never be enough. Give your best anyway. And in the end, you see, it was never between you and them. It was always between you and God anyway. Thank you.
Good morning to one and all present here. I am Ayush Sinha of class 8C, and I am here to deliver a speech given by Mahatma Gandhi on the eve of Dandi March, and it goes like this. In all my probability, this will be my last speech to you. Even if the government allow me to march tomorrow morning, this will be my last speech to you on the sacred banks of Sabarmati. Possibly, these may be my last words of my life here. I have already told you yesterday what I had to say, but today I shall confine myself to what you should do when my companions and I are arrested. The program of the march to Jalalpur must be fulfilled as originally settled. The enlistment of volunteers for this purpose must be confined to Gujarat only. From what I have been and heard during the last fortnight, I am inclined to believe that the stream of civil resistors will flow unbroken. I wish these words of mine reach every nook and corner of the land. My task shall be done if I perish, and so do my comrades. It will then be for the working committee of Congress to show you the way, and it will upon you to follow its lead. I have faith in the righteousness of our cause and the purity of our weapons. Also, God is undoubtedly present with His blessings. A satyagrahi, whether free or incarcerated, is ever victorious, but he is vanquished only when he forsakes truth and non-violence and turns deaf ear to the inner voice. God bless you all and keep off all obstacles from the path in the struggle that's begun tomorrow. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. Thank you.